Unemployment at its lowest in a generation, we now need to bring in workers from overseas. Canberra coming up with a relaxed temporary visa to cover them. Problem is, that's fertile ground for unethical migration agents overseas and dodgy employers here. Laura Sparks on a scam that's hit the most desperate and vulnerable.
That cargo of people is more profitable than shipping drugs, shipping guns, shipping gold. I mean, it's really a very lucrative market.
Mr. Wang?
It's a boon for the middlemen, for the recruitment agencies. It's a boon for unscrupulous employers.
The rip-off starts here in the poverty-stricken areas of China, India, the Philippines. Migration agents pushing fear to vulnerable people, desperate for a better life. Newspaper and website advertisements warning, get in quick, lock in before it changes. To what, we're not sure, but it's all about getting migrants to go to Australia, the land of opportunity. But is it?
There's a slice of the people involved in the industry that are really sort of almost engaged in criminal activity.
The Australian Nursing and Midwifery Council is so concerned about these unethical overseas recruitment agencies that they've set up their own charter to help protect the rights of migrant nurses. It's an industry often targeted by these unscrupulous operators, and one where nurses often have to pay out exorbitant fees to come here and work.
These people are saying that we will fit you into the procedure, that even if you don't fit, we're going to make you fit in. If you just have a look at this...
University of Technology Sydney Professor Jock Collins is an immigration expert. He says not only do migrants pay inflated fees to overseas migration and recruitment agents to get a 457 temporary visa, they get ripped off again when they get to Australia by dodgy employers.
Unscrupulous employers will take advantage of these visas and pay people a third, a quarter of the Australian wage, despite promising them equal wages.
I'm tricked in Australia, not bilingual.
Jack Zhang paid a migration agent $10,000 for a 457 visa. Then, when he got to Australia, had to pay another $10,000 to his sponsored employer. The Chinese agent and Australian employer were friends.
12 hours a day, 5 days a week. And I got to pay almost $250 a week.
In the last 3 years, the numbers coming into Australia on the temporary 457 visa has tripled. In 2004, it was just 27,350. This financial year, 70,000 temporary migrants will come into Australia, while another 150,000 will come in on permanent visas.
I've been told by my clients, even their boss in China did not treat them like this.
Gong Wei and Huang Jianzhong borrowed $12,000 each from their families in China to pay an unethical migration agent for 457 temporary visas. The agent lied in the visa, claiming the men were stonemasons. The truth? One is a carpenter, one a bricklayer. But the rip-off continues here. Their Australian employer, Frank Wang, who sponsored the pair, paid them $750 a week into a bank account set up by Mr. Wang, to which he had the only ATM card. A day later each week, most of the money was then withdrawn by Mr. Wang's associate.
These workers say they hardly ever saw any money. They got the equivalent of about $50 a week is all they ever saw.
All up, they claim they were paid $8,000 for 14 months' work, even though Mr. Wang told the tax office he paid them $46,000. Mr. Wang? When we approached Mr. Wang about it, he was quick to disappear. The pair are now living in a suburban office of the Construction, Forestry, Mining, Energy Union, leaving the union and their lawyer to fight for their unpaid wages in court. The union's federal secretary, John Sutton.
They find themselves trapped in the hands of unscrupulous employers. It's really akin to slave labour.
This is a very valuable program for Australia, without which we couldn't continue our economic prosperity. By the same token, we don't want anybody abusing it, because that puts the whole program into jeopardy.
Federal Immigration Minister Kevin Andrews explains the government recently signed an agreement with the Chinese authorities to set up a register of approved migration agents to stop huge fees being charged. He also says employers scamming the system here in Australia will be prosecuted. Mr Wang is currently under investigation by the Immigration Department.
If anybody thinks they can abuse the program, then I'm sending a message to them that that's wrong, and we'll crack down on them like a ton of bricks.
Mr Gong and Mr Huang's cases are being reviewed by the Migration Review Tribunal. But if they lose their court case for unpaid wages, they'll go home owing $4,000 to their families. The man in our next story doesn't have that kind of money worry. Otherwise, he wouldn't be turning multi-million-dollar mansions into piles of rubble.